Morning from the Namaste Center. It is June 22nd. Morning from the Namaste Center. It is June 22nd. Good morning from the Namaste Center. It is June 22nd, the second day of summer. So happy summer, everybody. And it's a beautiful day to be alive and be here with each and every one of you all. A couple of weeks ago, I'm a little disappointed that the person who gave me this book, actually Awakening to the Fifth Dimension, it's a guide for navigating the global shift. And it was written by Vidya Frazier. And Larry and Eleanor, who come here often, they're out of town, and I thought they'd be back today. He gave me this book. Larry Woodfield gave me this book. It was written by a friend of theirs from California, and it's a wonderful compilation of just great ideas, thoughts, lessons on the shift that's happening on the planet at this time. And this woman, it's very easy read. There's a lot of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now I understand. It's just a wonderful little guidebook for what's happening with the shift and our awakening to the fifth dimension. So what I did when we were on our little adventure in Hot Springs, I got to read a couple of books, which was great. And this was one of them. So I took some notes from it, and I'm going to do my best to share some of the key points that Vidya shares. And if you want to order the book, you can actually just go to her website, vidyafrazier.com. And if you're interested, I'll give you the info later. So awakening to the fifth dimension. You know, I don't care what anybody says, things are brewing out there on our planet in a big way, more than I've seen in my lifetime. I don't know about you guys, maybe I'm more aware, but politically, world peace, or lack thereof. Weather is insane these days. I don't even know what's happening with that. A lot financially, lots of big time turbulent things, and we've addressed this a lot of times in the past, but I also am still seeking to be able to share what I can find to help make sense of it. And you know, she talks about dimensions being a level that we vibrate in. And we've been three-dimensional beings for, you know, these bodies are three-dimensional, and we've been three-dimensional beings navigating through this earth and showing up, having families, doing our jobs, having fun, coming to the Namaste Center, whatever. But, you know, she goes on to say that on December 21st, 2012, you know, I think some people were expecting I like what Greg Braden said, what are you going to do, what's going to happen on December 21st, 2012? What are you going to do? He said, well, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to wake up and do what I normally do on December 22nd. In other words, it's not like the whole world was just like going to explode into light or whatever. There were a lot of ideas and thoughts about that. Well, one thing that she says in this is at that point, we moved into the fourth dimension, which is like a bridge to the fifth dimension. And of course, you know, the fifth dimension, I always think of the song Aquarius from the 60s. One of my faves still. I should have brought that to play today. We could have had a dance party. But anyway, I think that this bridge that we're in is leading us to the fifth dimension, to the new world. And it goes on to say things I think we can all relate to. Now, we always heard this maybe when we were younger. Well, when you get older, time goes a lot faster. But I think that's partially true. But I do believe that the experience of time as we know it is certainly accelerating. Can you all agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's amazing. When we were thinking about, someone had said about the summer solstice, they said, oh, Christmas is just 6 months away. And I'm like, wow, it seemed like Christmas was just yesterday. So these little things, I mean, time is for sure accelerating. Seems like there's less time to get things done. Anyone relate to that? And most of us, you know, it's not like it's got so much to do, but it seems like that there's less time to get it done. You know, the third dimension is linear. it's a linear-based dimension. And the fourth dimension is actually the present moment. And what we're doing here in this fourth dimension, if you notice, your thoughts are manifesting a lot quicker. Can you relate to that? It's like you think something, and I'll be, typing something, and then on television, the key word I just typed comes out. Or I'll think of somebody and they'll call me. Or, oh, I'd like to have this, and it presents itself. So, that manifestation is happening pretty quickly. The thought is creating much quicker. And of course, that can be a good thing, but it's really making sure that we pay attention to what vibe and thoughts we're putting out there. It's also one thing that I've been a real teacher and student of is the zone. And that is based on, a lot of athletes and creative people. When they're really in the creative space or really playing a great game of golf or whatever they're doing, they are right there. They're not focused on the past. They're not projecting into the future. They are right there with that golf shot. They're right there with that painting. There's no mind chatter, no distraction. And I think that now we're moving into that place where we are living more in that zone. And that zone is really just living free of all that chatter, all that old paradigm thinking, and really open to God consciousness. So without a doubt, our thoughts are creating very, very quickly. One thing, and of course a lot of this, the reason I like this book so much is it's a compilation of so many things we know already, but it's a really good read and easy, as I said. And one thing is that, if something comes up that upsets us, for example, and I had a little phone conversation with someone a couple of days ago, and of course my big hot button on this planet are people in the service industry. And you pay for something, you pay extra for shipping, and then you expect to get it when you paid for it, right? So I called this person very nicely, didn't get it, and I had made many attempts to make sure that this wouldn't happen. Well, what ended up happening was this person flipped it all towards me, and I was like trying to keep my cool, and Ellen's like, this is a lesson, this is a lesson. And so it was and I knew it was, because in the past it would have really just gotten me. And so I handled it, and of course I was like, okay, fine, whatever. But I think it's when these things happen, these patterns, what choice am I making of how to respond? It's being, in that choice place and taking that breath, that pause, and choosing another way to experience it. So I had that blessing, I had that experience. Well, the thing I really love is the idea of the fifth dimension. And actually, when you think about the Age of Aquarius and all the lyrics to that song, it's very much in alignment with what we're talking about with this fifth dimension. Because the fifth dimension is basically a dimension of love where we live from the heart. All possibilities are available to us. And we'll be in total immersion with our soul, which I think is so amazing. It's just like we're living totally from soul. And also, I think one thing that's fascinating is our DNA will be fully activated. And there's no junk DNA. We keep hearing about this junk DNA. That's just DNA that they don't have another name for, so they call it junk. And then, but that's going to be activated. We can't even imagine what that is going to be like or experience. And one thing, we've always heard probably that we only use 10% of our brain. Well, in this fifth dimension, according to this book, 99% of our brain will be activated. Can you imagine? I mean, I can imagine being 10 times smarter than I already am. Is that possible? I don't know. So I mean, 10 times more brain capability than we have now. It's amazing to me. So it's so exciting. It's also a time where I think we're experiencing in the Namaste Center a lot of this already. Because, it's a community here that we're already living a lot of these principles, but we're going to see it more in the world. And that's going to be where we live more in cooperation, oneness, joy, peace, and harmony. And our psychic abilities will naturally develop. It's all these old heavy paradigms and belief systems will be lifted, and we're naturally more tuned in. Speaking won't be necessary because we're going to be just telepathically connected, which I've heard that if you're into other planetary life and beings, that's how they communicate, just telepathically. There's no need to talk. And of course, all of our choices will be made from the heart. But you know, she goes on and explains this. It's like, yeah, I want to be there. That's cool. And like I said, so many of us are already really doing the work to get us in that state of consciousness. And so I'm really grateful to be in such a group of ascended beings here. But she also goes on to say, part 2 of this is we have to clear what needs to be cleared before we can do that. And, you know, we can't be awake if we're holding judgment, if we're not willing to forgive. If, you know, the lack of forgiveness and judgment is one of the heaviest, densest energies. And if you want to stay stuck in third dimension, you can just stay in judgment and you'll stay there. But if you want to ascend, if you really want to experience all this beauty, every shred of darkness has to be removed from our consciousness. And why do we hold on to this old stuff? You know, I was almost going to say a CR word. But why do we hold on to that stuff? I don't know. It's silly, isn't it? And I love what A Course in Miracles says. It says, you know, there's nothing, the best experience that we've ever had in this world, in our life, doesn't hold, it's not even a glimmer of what this is talking about. So we hold on to all of this stuff, letting go of all of this greatness that the 5th dimension or heaven has to offer us. Now, some things that are really cool, I like to eat, I like to drink, and I like to sleep. It says, but we won't need to eat, drink, or sleep then. I guess that'll be a good thing. I don't know. Those are 3 of my favorite things. I don't know. We'll see about that. Clothing and shelter are not a worry. You know, there again, our brothers and sisters on other dimensions, they say, you know, they just sort of show up with their little gray bodies and they don't wear clothes. I guess maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe we'll all be naked. I have no idea. Better do more jazzercise. But also, you know, we're not, the one thing I think is really, really cool is there's no aging and no death in this dimension. We're just eternal beings. We're aware of our eternal nature and we're living from that. And we don't age. Isn't that awesome? And, you know, there is science. The beauty of this is there's science to support this right now. That aging is really not necessary. There are ways we can reverse the aging process. So little by little, things are working together to take us there. And I love the idea of not aging. I spoke a few weeks ago about the movie, Heaven is for Real. And when the young man shared his experience of being in heaven, he said that he saw his grandfather there, but his grandfather looked like he did in this picture when he was in his 30s, not when he died in his 80s. And so I believe that, you know, that's another experience of heaven. We go into our perfect state of being. Something very cool, which I would love to be able to do right now, is teleportation. Wouldn't that be cool? Oh, take me to Hawaii. Yeah, that's right. Hawaii would be cool. Now this one's kind of scary. There's no secrets, and we can read each other's thoughts. So it's when a friend of mine, John Mundy, he says, great Course in Miracles teacher, if we're really living in this state of being, it's like having a megaphone on our head and every thought we think just coming out. No secrets, okay? And the Course in Miracles says there are no private thoughts, really. Even though we think we're holding them private, they're still being put out into the field in some capacity. And, you know, we can, as I said, read each other's thoughts with ease. So that seems a little scary, but I'm willing. And so if we're not judging, it wouldn't matter, right? So anyway, this is happening soon, and people are like, how soon? Today, tomorrow, next year? I have no idea, but it's happening soon. And many of us are already in this process of awakening. It's really up to us, I think, where we can get tripped up on this. We can look out at the world and say, yeah, right, what's going on in Iraq right now? That's a lot of heavy, dense, dark energy. But that's, I think, a trap we can fall into, that we can say, well, that it can't be happening soon. Look at how horrible things are still in the world. But I believe it's up to us to really take self-responsibility, live from our heart, and as she expresses it, it's like a 100th monkey. So we can't focus our attention on what seems to be going wrong. Because in truth, all of that's happening anyway in the Middle East and other places in the world, that's part of this ascension process too. It's the darkness coming up to be healed. So we have to be very mindful not to join in on that fear and that darkness. This is one thing also she mentions, and I've certainly noticed it in a big way. Many will leave and many will stay. And I don't know if it's just you all, but I have seen more people make their transition in the past few years than I can ever remember. And I don't think it's just because I'm getting older, because I'm not really that old. It's just people that seem healthy, all of a sudden they're gone in strange ways. So some people are leaving. Well, I've heard it said that some people are leaving to be able, and very enlightened beings too. Many of them. And so I think that maybe they're there to help us through this shift and transition. Certainly a possibility. Some of us are doing it from this side and some are doing it from the other side. But I think we can all relate. Is there anyone who hasn't lost friends and family over the past few years unexpected? Yep, it's pretty much out there. So, you know, it talks about the fall of consciousness. And I think that the Course in Miracles talks about, you know, when we were, once upon a time, we were all at one, you know, experiencing the totality of oneness, peace, heaven, love. There was no separation, no anger, no sickness. It was just pure love, the experience of heaven. And she talks, and the Course says, what it says is the tiny mad idea. What would it be like to experience duality? Well, poof, here we are. And so anyway, she goes on to say in the same context, we were once upon a time in that fifth dimension, and we wanted to experience something new. So, you know, if we just look at this, that this is just an experience. We take it so darn serious. We get so upset over that. I love what Ellen says when she gets upset. In the realm of eternity, is it really that important? And I think if you ask yourself that question, it really isn't. I mean, this is just a blip on the movie screen. So, but when we made that choice to go from fifth dimension to third dimension, we actually went from non-duality to duality, to free will. So here we're experimenting, we're having all these experiences, and what we're really here to do is to go back to that state of oneness. And we do that, since we have free will, by choosing to live from our heart, from a higher state of being. And it's, even though this is an adventure, if we stay too immersed in it and too stuck in it, what happens is we cut ourselves off from these higher vibrations. So, you know, where is it that, you know, as I said in the meditation, that you may be holding back? Where are you holding that grievance? Where are you not willing to open your heart and your mind totally to everyone and everything? Because that's what's keeping you in this lower dimension. So as we all know, we have to let this stuff as it come up. We have to just place it in the hands of Spirit. It's like, as I said, bless it, Spirit, purify this, cleanse it. And then we tap into all the good stuff. Because, and this is something I think that I've recognized with a lot of people, because I talk to a lot of you guys. When the stuff's coming up, have you ever gone from a place of, like, you're optimistic, you're feeling great, and 5 minutes later, for no reason, you feel lousy? And it's like you feel kind of down, and it's weird. And where'd that come from? Again, it's all part of the divine plan, because our brains, our everything, our DNA, everything's being rewired. And, you know, when we get through this process, we're just going to be so much greater. We're going to awaken to the truth of who we really are. But we have to do a couple of things. We have to totally surrender to the process and trust the process. There's a one very simple line in A Course in Miracles that says, trust would settle every problem now. And so I surrender and I trust the process. And when we do that, you just sort of are led by that still small voice. Symptoms, headaches. Anyone getting more headaches than usual? Body aches, exhausted.
Yes.
Oh, okay, Karen, there you go. Yeah. So it's, you know, sometimes I'll wake up and I'm like ready to go, and then it's like, oh, I'm exhausted for, again, no reason. And what she says is, you know, we're so screwed up too. We're programmed about sleep in a weird way, you know, like it's good if you can only sleep 3 hours and get all this accomplished. So we really need, if we're tired, if at all possible, take time to rest. Be still, rest, meditate, give into it instead of fighting against it. And of course, the obvious, good food, good water, and exercise are all important in this process. You know, she talks a lot about energy healing. And, you know, even Dr. Oz says the future of medicine is energy medicine. And so we're beginning to really tap into this whole idea of quantum healing versus Newtonian healing, and focusing more on that, and working more energetically with a lot of things, healing touch and Reiki, and the reconnection technique, and all sorts of different energy techniques for healing are coming up. So that is something you may want to consider participating in too. And really pay attention to your thoughts, and more important than that is your emotions. Because there are emotions, when they're put out, are just creating every moment. So just pay attention, watch it. And of course, appreciate our body, thank it, and ask it for divine support. And if your body is holding tension or pain, I had a lot of pain the past few days. Ellen and I have started jazzercise, and I'm like the biggest, I do things like full throttle. I'm going to get in that jazzercise class. I'm going to force those sit-ups, even though I'm dying, man. I mean, so the past few days, I had such a pain here. I mean, it was brutal. I couldn't sleep. So anyway, last night I was burning, and I was just sending, like it says here, send a light where your body holds pain or tension. So take some deep breaths, send some light. And this morning I feel really good, so I'm great. Well, you know, it's we're walking between the worlds. This fourth dimension is basically, you know, we slip back into the third and we move up to the fifth. It's kind of cool to watch it happen. And, you know, sometimes we get disoriented or brain fog. It's kind of like, where am I? Am I here? Am I there? You know, we can't make sense of it sometimes. So as we focus on this, it says as we focus on the new you, or the new me, or the new you, sometimes loss is necessary. But again, to support this with a quote from A Course in Miracles, it says, loss is never lost when perceived properly. So we're really not losing, we're making space to gain and to awaken. So we have to be willing to shift our attention on this. It talks about, you know, we're going back to the remembrance of our galactic heritage, which is Palladian, Arcturian, Lemurian, or Atlantean. I was telling a friend of mine last night I was going to talk about this. She goes, what kind of church do you have? And this is a gal who's pretty open. She goes, I want to come to that one. She goes, I don't know too many people that could actually get up and talk about our galactic heritage. But, you know, we are a part of, you know, this earth is just one little blip of the whole cosmos. And we are a part of everything. So we do have roots all over the universe. So it's, you know, all of these things are really about us detaching, letting go, and trusting the process, because it's a time, this ascension is a time of rebirth. And so what we're doing is recalibrating, moving forward. It asks us to embrace all that is, ask for help, We've got a beautiful supportive community here. That's why I can't get you all here at 11, because y'all are like, and that's a good thing, because, you know, the healing's taking place. That's a great thing. So use each other as a means of support, because the Ascension is about moving, opening ourselves up to love, moving from the head to the heart. And of course, she mentions over and over that we have to love ourselves first. This one's a biggie. Don't sell out for approval. What other people think of us is none of our business. How often do we do something we really don't want to do to make someone else feel good? So not to sell ourselves out. This is a very personal, individual journey that we're taking together. And being, of course, 100% responsible for the world we're creating, the experiences we're having. We can't place blame on anything anymore. If we don't take responsibility, then we can't heal it. So all of these things are exciting, most of which are not new. A couple of things may have triggered something different in you, but we're moving in this. It's happening. I feel it. I've talked to enough of you all to know that you all are experiencing some of this too. Maybe not framing it in the same context, but that's all good too, because the reason I supported a lot of these statements with the Course in Miracles is it's, even though she expresses it one way, I'm sure I could go into other philosophies and teachings and find a support for it as well. So it is happening, and I'm grateful that we're all in this ascension process together. I can't imagine a greater group of beings to be with in this process. And it's pretty exciting to think of what the prospects will be in our future. And just keep your hearts open and keep your hands and heart open. Place your future in the hands of God and know that all is well. And so it is. Namaste.